Do you ever get stuck in paralysis by analysis where you just can't make a decision, especially when it comes to thinking about what you want to share online? I don't know what kind of content to create, and therefore I don't create. I got to a point where I realized that the efforts that I was putting in on my YouTube channel really weren't taking me that far, and I felt this need to just stop. I'm a firm believer that there is a time and a place for everything. I'm also a firm believer in the concept of letting go. Whenever we are in this paralysis by analysis and trying to figure it out, we're creating a lot of force in our life versus really leaning into power, flowing downstream with life rather than trying to fight upstream to make it happen. It's easy to think that the solution to paralysis by analysis is merely to come to a decision and just force yourself to keep going. But what if the opposite is true? This is all coming from someone that is the queen of paralysis by analysis. For the past 2 years, I have been in a standstill playing puzzle piece of trying to get everything into one place, into a perfect business plan to where I can live the life that I want, have tons of time to spend with my son and my husband, and still do what I love at the same time. So as 2023 came to a close, I decided to stop trying to figure it out. And I went all in on this experiment. And today I'm going to share with you what has come from it. Now, quick note, we are all the main characters of our own journey. And I have recently been embodying this in my own life. I really just want to share my personal experience, and you can translate it to whatever is helpful for you. So here's my first person experience. What I ended up doing instead of living in this place of paralysis by analysis was I decided to stop figuring it out. And what I have ultimately found as I have let go of figuring it out is observing my natural energy and where things are flowing. So I'm noticing the value or this natural flow towards documenting life. That's video. That is the side of me where I in some ways see myself coming from this angle. The human design side of it is really the philosophical way that I move through life. And to really connect those two dots together has been really interesting. Now, it's not gonna make sense for those of you that don't know human design. If what I say is interesting, I will link to resources in the description below to kind of get you started on this journey. It's essentially a map for how your unique energy works, and it is oh so fascinating. So gate 33, which is essentially a frequency of being able to stop and turn a weak position into a strength, is my unconscious sun, which is a huge part of my energy. What's really interesting as observing my energy is I begin to see this element of myself. I'm realizing, wow, it feels so good to stop, to reflect, and to lean into that side of myself. That is natural to me. Instead of living in this other state that is society saying, 2024 is coming, you better have a big plan, or else you might feel the same way that you feel right now, that you haven't accomplished enough. What if you've accomplished just the amount that you've needed to accomplish, and that everything is happening and unfolding in perfect time? Because I decided to stop posting on YouTube, I still had expenses that I needed to keep paying. And one of those expenses is an editor. So I pay an editor the highest amount that I've ever paid an editor every single month to be able to edit my videos. And this has been an amazing investment. And what I ended up doing was finding old videos that he could edit while I wasn't creating videos. So a trip to Aruba with my family that will never see the light of day on social media. It doesn't matter to anyone else, but it matters to me. A trip with my husband for our first 1-year anniversary also will never see the light of day. An interview with my grandmother and grandfather about their life, how they met, which ended up being a 24-minute video that is absolute gold for the family.
You always thought that the girl who went to 4 years of college was not good marriage material.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were old maids.
I also had my editor edit footage that my brother and I shot very casually for my mom's wedding. I thought it was gonna be terrible. It came back amazing, and now my mom has this memory.
I pronounce that they are husband and wife.
And I can't explain to you the amount of joy that I have gotten from going through this process, which would never have happened had I continued posting videos. Another thing that has happened is very exciting. I very naturally started filming a podcast, co-hosting it with someone else about human design.
Have you
felt into your body when you get a splenic hit? Like, where do you feel it?
So it's interesting, the tingle, but at the same time, it's like a grounding.
I recognized that it can be very challenging to talk about human design to beginners because it's a very complex system, but my energy wants to do it. I want to talk about the life-changing elements of this and not do it to a beginner, but rather do it to someone that has an awareness about this system. And so what ended up happening was, truly in pure magic, I sat down and filmed a podcast in the most epic studio that I just naturally was invited to come to. We ended up filming the first episode of our podcast and now have filmed, by Thursday, we will have filmed 5 episodes of this. I was recently texting a client of mine, a video coaching client that I talk about video and human design in one sitting to get them up and running on their YouTube channel. Anyway, I was texting her and I said this. I said, the idea that life can be in flow is an odd one to wrap our heads around, but it continues to be powerful to sit with for me. She goes, it is. Do you find that it gets easier the more that you practice it? And I said, oh yeah. It gets harder at first, and then it gets easier. It's finding peace with the mental chatter that never stops. Your mind can be crazy, but it doesn't mean that you are crazy. It's just the mind talking. Our minds are where paralysis by analysis happens. Our bodies are already taking the action to move us down the path that we need to go or are naturally going. And so by living in paralysis by analysis and making ourselves wrong for we should have this figured out by now, you're missing everything else that is naturally unfolding before you. This doesn't mean that life comes without struggles. Life is struggle. It just is. Life happens. There are things that happen constantly, but your inner world can be like this, while your external world can be like this. And I would say these past 2 months have really begun to show me that and begun to reveal a whole different way of being that I just felt called to sit down and share with you. So if you find value in this, please comment below. I'd love to hear your story, who you are, and if you are curious about human design and want to learn more, you go ahead and watch this video next on the screen. Otherwise, see you the next time I post, whenever it's in flow.